It's a big test, and the Oil won't have their best student. Ken Connor's afterburners put Edmonton over the top tonight. We get you set for the Oilers and the Jets right here on the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show. Good evening, everybody. Hope you're doing well on this lovely spring day. We've got hockey action tonight. Busy day in the National Hockey League. The Edmonton Oilers taking on the Winnipeg Jets. First meeting of the year between these two clubs in, like 4 or 5 months, something like that. October 9th, you might remember a 6-0 drubbing at the hands of the Winnipeg Jets to start the 24-25 season. Party poopers that night, and the Oil, all these months later, are looking to get a little bit of vengeance. I don't think it's really top of mind, that game, but it would help if they could get a nice shot in on the league's best team from Winnipeg. Edmonton 40-24-4. Winnipeg 47-18-4. It is game number 69 on the schedule. And of course, it's Gazzola, it's Salas with you. Kassian will be by for Game Changers at about 6:30. We'll also be joined by Mitchell Clinton, radio color analyst for the Winnipeg Jets, in a few minutes' time. Also, GCL Diesel, providers of the best diesel engine components around, from turbochargers to injectors, fuel pumps to sensors. They are the critical engine component experts, proud to serve Edmonton and Northern Alberta for over 50 years. Join the conversation, won't you? Hit us up on the text line, 780-218-9999. Get into the nasty chat if you are watching on YouTube. Let's welcome in the Latino Heat. Hernan, the man, Salas, back at EST Global HQ. Nancito, I like that EST pullover. Looking sharp as always, my friend. How you feeling going into this one?
Yeah, I mean, pretty confident. I mean, it's interesting. We'll find out soon enough if Draisaitl's playing. I think my spidey senses are telling me he won't, because just by the comments he made today, and you were down there, Tommy, that's the head coach, Rich Lombok, saying we got to be careful here. The playoffs are just around the corner, so we'll take it really. We'll take it day by day, but yeah, exactly. And so that to me is a big tell. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if Leon doesn't go, how this team responds. I mean, Gager brought up a good point today on EST Afternoons. He said, hey, when McDavid was out this year, Draisaitl stepped up and took over and said, guys, I'm the leader. And I'm not saying Connor's not or anything like that, but maybe this is an opportunity for Connor to kind of say, okay, guys, like, Leon's been our best player this year. Now it's time for me to kind of, pay it back or whatever it is, right? So, yeah, I'm intrigued by this game. Winnipeg's going to be a little feisty. They're coming off an ugly loss. They're a team that, I think Drew Mandel told us, they usually bounce back after bad games. I think this year they haven't had back-to-back bad games. I mean, they've lost back-to-back games, but they haven't played awful in both. So, yeah, intriguing matchup. Looking forward to it. Always fun when two Canadian teams meet up, Tom.
Two really good Canadian teams, too. I'm just looking at the Jets this year and their results. They did lose 5-0 to Florida, one game in Sunrise. Then they bounced back the next one and beat the Panthers. It was a home-and-home set. They beat them 6-3. Looking at, they had a 4-1 loss to Nashville. They lost 4-1 to LA, 4-1 to the Blues, 4-1 to the Blues again. This is a good team. We know that because they're the best team in the league. But when they lose, they don't really lose and get blown out. That has not really happened at all this season. Of course, they did lose 6-2 to the Vancouver Canucks on Tuesday night, so they will be feisty and ornery and look to put the boots to the Oilers like they did back on October 9th. But the Oilers, different team from when we saw them take on these Jets in early October. That was the Stanley Cup hangover. I was talking with Huss today on WST, and I was saying, I know that the team didn't want to admit it, but there was definitely a malaise following the run to the Cup final, right? And you don't want to make it an excuse for this team, but it happened. They weren't very good in the first month of the year. Now the record was okay. They climbed their way out of it, went on that 22-6-1 stretch, had a tough February, obviously, but are playing better hockey now and have their sights set on the first place spot in the Pacific Division again. So a much different team. We'll see how the Oilers respond. Maybe they can provide Winnipeg a second consecutive loss. We'll see. Nat, so I'll forego starting lineups early in the show.
Okay.
Because we'll wait to see what the Oilers lines look like tonight at warm-up. We'll get our final answer on Draisaitl. I don't think he's going to play, but we'll see. And then that's when I'll unveil the starting lineups. But in the meantime, do we have a question of the night?
Well, it's regarding Leon too. And okay, let's just go with he's not playing tonight. Okay.
Okay. I don't think he's playing.
And if he is at 6:30, I'll come up with another one. All right. So he obviously a big part of this team, a big part of the power play. So I want to know from our Nasty 780-218-9999 and on the Nasty chat, who should take his spot? Not necessarily exactly where he is, but who should replace him on the power play? Arvidsson, Skinner, or should they go two defensemen? Because, Tommy, remember when McDavid was out, they rolled two defensemen out there with Hyman, Nugent, and Draisaitl. Or other. So what's your option, Tommy? You're on the spot. So who would you roll out there in place of Leon Draisaitl on the Oilers power play?
Now, do you want a shooter or do you just want...
Do you need it?
A guy that can muck? Because if you want a shooter, I would consider Wallman.
Yes.
I might look at Ekholm.
Yes.
But if you want a guy who can go in there and muck a little bit, this might be an opportunity for, if this opportunity presents itself, a Jeff Skinner perhaps. I think you're looking at a left shot here, right? You want to have that sidewall. You want it open, that right side. You want to have a guy who shoots left, kind of gives it better angles. I would look at Jeff Skinner, perhaps.
Okay.
What do you think?
I like the two defensemen, and I like it because of Jake Wallman. I think he gives you an element that outside of Bouchard you don't really have. So I kind of like that. I said, why not give it a roll? Then you have two threats, right? They're not from the point, and then you got McDavid who can shoot. You got Nuge who's, when he's on, he can fire that puck better than anyone. And Zach Hyman's the one mucking it up in front of the net. So I kind of like the idea of going with the two defensemen here because for me, Tommy, I don't know if Skinner, they want him there, to be honest. Like, they've never tried him. Arvidsson, I know he's getting a little bit hot here, but I don't know if he does it for me either. But I think it's going to be Arvidsson. I hope it's two defensemen and Wallman. And
that's an Arvidsson who has goals in back-to-back games. That's also worth noting. Nugent Hopkins, 6 points in his last two games. He's obviously on that first power play. I'd probably go Wallman, Hernan. Honestly, I'd want him over Arvidsson. That's just me, though.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I don't think there's like a bad choice. I just think, hopefully we find out early enough. But yeah, I'm kind of excited to see if it is Wallman because I think we've seen him, kind of do a one-timer once so far since the beginning. We haven't really seen him kind of really get that shot off. So I wouldn't mind seeing it on the good old power play there. So yeah, we'll see.
All right. So who do you want to see on the power play in Draisaitl's spot if he can't play tonight? That is the question of the night from the Latino Heat, Hernan Salas. You can text us 780-218-9999. The Oilers and Jets clashing for the second time this season. What I can provide you, though, is your starting goalies for this one. It will be Stu Skinner for the Oilers, a 26-year-old, 23-17-4 on the season, 284 goals against average, 897 save percentage with 2 shutouts in 46 games this year. Skinner versus Winnipeg, lifetime 4-1-1 record, 267 GAA, 908 save percentage in 7 games versus the Jets over the course of his career. And then at the other end of the rink, it is one of the front runners for the Hart Trophy, 31-year-old Connor Hellebuck. He is 39-10-3 this year, 205 goals against average, 924 save percentage, 6 shutouts in 53 games for Hellebuck this season. He has a 14-13-3 record against Edmonton in his career, 304 goals against average, 907 save percentage, and 3 shutouts in the 30 appearances versus the Oilers for the Winnipeg Jets. That reminder. Just a quick peek at the out-of-town scores. The Calgary Flames just went down 2-0 at the Prudential Center in New Jersey. Busy Thursday in the National Hockey League. 14 games on the schedule. We'll keep you up to date as we cruise along throughout the show. And pleased to be welcomed by our first guest of the evening. It is Mitchell Clinton. He is a radio color analyst for the Winnipeg Jets and my friend. And we go back a long time. He is at Rogers Place. Mitch, I was just talking about Connor Hellebuyck and Stu Skinner being the goaltending matchup. I know here in Edmonton, we look at Leon Draisaitl and say he should win the Hart Trophy because of the season he's having. Why should Hellebuyck be given the Hart Trophy this season from what you've seen this year?
Well, Tom, great to be with you. For Connor Hellebuyck, it's been a season where he's been incredibly consistent, right? And that's really what Winnipeg's enjoyed having behind them. I was kind of writing some stuff today just because, he's had a run here where he's been almost unprecedented through 32, 33 games. Like, he's got 3 or 4 regulation losses and a bunch of wins and a couple losses in overtime. And you look at the goaltending stats this year, he's leading the way in a bunch of categories. And there hasn't really been goaltenders that have been able to do that and haven't been in the Hart Trophy conversation. So I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing how the voting all goes for that, how the finalists kind of shake out, because it's been a historical season for Connor Hellebuyck, and it's not done yet.
No, lots of runway left, as we like to say, and he gets the Oilers tonight. He hasn't had a ton of success against Edmonton. He's had some. Obviously, he got that shutout the opening night of the season. I just rattled off his stats versus the Oil. Still decent, but he's got, 14, 13, and 304 goals against average, 907 save percentage, 3 shutouts in the 30 games he's faced the Oilers. I think a large chunk of those games, too, came during the North Division, where Edmonton had a good year, a regular season at least, versus Winnipeg, but not so much in the playoffs when the Jets swept the Oil. Okay, Mitch, let's shift gears here to the team overall. Winnipeg coming off a loss in Vancouver, a surprising loss. We were doing the post-game show, and we were talking about, my goodness, what's happening in Vancouver? The Jets are losing, and it ends up being a 6-2 final. How would you sum up that night at Rogers Arena?
An off night is kind of how I would say. It was interesting because Winnipeg gave up the first goal, tied it up, and then there's been a number of times this season where that's happened, and they've been able to just kind of find a way to grab on momentum and keep going. What ended up happening in Vancouver was kind of the opposite. End of the first period, they get 2 goals in roughly 90 seconds, and all of a sudden it's 3-1. And, Winnipeg's not out of it yet. They make it 3-2. But then just like the first period, give up a couple of goals in around 90 seconds, and boom, all of a sudden it's a 3-goal lead for Vancouver. So you guys are well aware how much pressure is on Vancouver, the urgency that they're playing with, the desperation. And we saw all of that from the Canucks that night. They played very well. Got a couple of goals from Brock Besser, who was struggling. So obviously it's kind of one of those perfect storms where Vancouver played incredibly well and Winnipeg was a little bit off, and you add that all up and it's a 6-2 loss.
Mitchell Clinton joining us now. He's the color analyst of the Winnipeg Jets on radio broadcast. If you want to text us, you can get into the inbox, 780-218-9999. If you're watching on YouTube, get to the nasty chat. All right, Mitch. We talked about the game the other night. We talked about Connor Hellebuyck and the MVP type season he's having. How about the new recruits that the Jets brought in? Brandon Tanev makes his return to the club. Luke Schenn comes in, a steadying presence. Why are these the right guys and the right fit for this group as it looks to make a Stanley Cup run?
Yeah, it's just really good depth pieces. Brandon Tanev is a familiar face to the Winnipeg Jets. It was Winnipeg that signed him coming out of Providence, and he was a part of that 2017 or 2018 run to the Western Conference Final. He was huge in the series against the Nashville Predators, especially early on in that series, picked up a couple of big goals. And really his game looks very similar to what it was back then, and he brings a lot of speed to Winnipeg's fourth line. He's a penalty killer. He hits, he's physical. He does a lot of things that Winnipeg needs in their lineup. So he's fit in really well. And then you look at Luke Schenn. he's come in and, he starts on a 5-6 pairing, and then Neil Pionk is all of a sudden week to week, and he steps into a pairing with Dylan Sandberg, and he looks very comfortable there too. And obviously there's a lot of talk about how physical he is. I mean, he's in the top 5 in the National Hockey League in that department. But what surprised me is how well he moves the puck and at pace. Winnipeg's forwards, similar to Edmonton's forwards, really like to get the puck with speed so that they can get going. And Luke Schenn's done that in spades in a little bit of time that we've seen. So it's been a tough little bit for him in terms of getting traded a couple of times in a couple of days. So I was hearing around the rink that it sounds like Winnipeg's going to let him go home to Nashville for a day or so, because Winnipeg doesn't play till Sunday afternoon, which I'm sure will be huge for him. It's been a pretty big whirlwind over the last week or so. So it'll be exciting to see how rejuvenated he is after he sees his family. But both of them have fit in so well and have been kind of that physical presence, making Winnipeg even harder to play against.
Mitch was talking about the Oilers and how different of a team they might be earlier in the day compared to what we saw on October 9th. How different is this Winnipeg bunch compared to the opening game of the season, in your opinion?
You know what? They've been remarkably consistent over the course of the year, but I would say, they're a group that has a lot of confidence in the game that they like to play. And you only get that by getting results and getting the reward from playing the right way. So you look at the team that was coming into this building in October. Yeah, they had the training camp. Yeah, they had the good regular season the year before. But, head coach Scott O'Neill was coming in and, was making a little bit of some adjustments to how they want to play. And you had 2 new assistant coaches working your special teams, and Dean Chenoweth and Davis Payne. Like, there's a little bit of some changes, so you needed to see how this was all going to go. And now in Game 70 for the Winnipeg Jets, that identity is kind of solidified, and they're a group that knows that they're hard to play against, knows how they have to defend, knows how to read off of each other, knows how to communicate, and all those things add up, right? As the season goes on, the game gets harder and harder, the playoffs, it gets harder and harder. You like to have that body of work behind you and the reward for that kind of work to make you a tough team to play against and fully confident in the way that you want to play.
All right, Mitch, final one for you here. Oilers and Jets, second of 3 meetings, and we don't anticipate Leon Draisaitl playing tonight. He is listed as doubtful by Chris Knobloch. Somebody has texted in and said load management has hit the NHL. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. They want to make sure that he's fit and ready to go for the postseason. How much does that change the dynamic of the game and maybe the Jets' strategy? And what type of hockey game are you expecting tonight?
Well, it was one of those things where I was really looking forward to seeing these 2 teams go at it in terms of center depth, right? Because, for different parts of the year, Edmonton had McDavid and Draisaitl together, but they had since kind of separated them, moved Ryan Nugent-Hopkins to the middle of the ice. So, that's 3 pretty big centers to deal with, right? Mm-hmm. And Winnipeg, matchup-wise, being on the road, they're not going to be the ones that set the matchups. Oftentimes, they like to try to get that Lowry line out against the McDavid line, but when you start spreading the centers out and you're on the road for Winnipeg, it kind of makes for an interesting dynamic to see what both Chris Knobloch and Scott O'Neill maybe chase in terms of matchups. So is it, Scheifele going against McDavid? Is it the Nemestikov line maybe against the Nugent-Hopkins line? That's the kind of thing that I'm really looking forward to seeing because, obviously as we get into the postseason, matches play such a big role in how the series go. And I would be surprised if both of these coaches aren't kind of looking at this as a little bit of a measuring stick to see where they're at.
Yeah, big time measuring sticks, especially for the Edmonton Oilers. Mitchell Clinton, fantastic stuff as always. I appreciate you coming on, and I look forward to seeing you down at the rink later on tonight.
Absolutely, sir. Always a pleasure.
There you go. There's Mitch Clinton. He is the radio color analyst for the the Winnipeg Jets. Great writer, great broadcaster, great guy overall, and he's like 7 feet tall, but just an absolute beauty. Good to have Mitch on. All right, Nancito, what did you think of what Mitch had to say about the Jets and what they've been able to do this season and how this game stacks up?
Yeah, I mean they're the staple right now, right? Like they've been amazing all season. Hellebuck having, that MVP season, and they do bounce back games, after bad games and all that. And it was an off game against Vancouver, right? So that's all it was. So it's going to be a good test for the Oilers, and I love these kind of games. It really shows. And the Oilers, Tom, for the most part, they usually show up for these games, regardless of who's in the lineup, who's not, or how they're going. They show up. You're going to need Skinner to outdo Connor Hellebuck. That's going to be the big one. You're going to need to stay out of the box because they have the number one power play. They're clipping at over 30%, Tom. It's unreal. So, and their PK similar to the Oilers, so the Oilers could take advantage there, and that's why it's such a well, I shouldn't say such a good question, but it's a question that if Draisaitl doesn't play, who gets that spot on the power play? Because if you want to kind of get into the game, maybe it's through the power play, Tommy. So we'll see what happens there. So it should be a good one.
We did get some responses to the question of the night already. Keep those coming in, 780-218-9999. The question of the night is, who should replace Leon Draisaitl on the Oilers power play if Draisaitl can't go tonight? We do anticipate he will be out. Chris Knobloch did not sound very optimistic when he declared Draisaitl doubtful for tonight's game. Ryan from Saskatchewan says, I'm betting on Ekholm. Would like to see Wallman, great speed, distribution skills, and he can pound the puck. Ekholm looked really good, by the way, in his return to the lineup on Tuesday. Troll texting in says, Leon better than Hellebuck, and it's not even close, talking about the Hart Trophy race. And then Troll also added, Oilers were going to lose this game regardless. Leon might as well sit out. Fat Dan, I want to get back to that in a second. Fat Dan responded to the question of the night. Fat Dan said, wouldn't be surprised if we see Perry replace Leon on the power play, Wiley vet / extra attacker. And then in regard to Troll talking about Leon potentially not playing, Scalding Gord also responded by saying, load management has arrived in Edmonton. And I said to Haas on Winnipeg Sports Talk earlier in the day, I said, it's not Kadri Leonard. It's not like that. Like, if he's nicked up, he's nicked up, and they want to make sure he's ready to go for the playoffs. He's missed, I think, what did Jack say? Jack had a tweet, 6 games in the last 7 years. Yeah. Like Draisaitl's a workhorse, and he's tough, and he plays through stuff. So if there's something hampering him, they want to make sure he's okay. So, yeah, he's not
he's not a guy that sits out to sit out.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, he's an absolute, he's just a horse out there.
Exactly. Troll also says, I know, I'm bringing the positives. LOL. Yes, Troll. Yes, Troll. And then JCD780 says, give Jeff Skinner a shot. I understand the Jeff Skinner rationale too. I really do. It makes sense. Quick out-of-town update. When it comes to the scoreboard, 14 games on the sched. The Flames have cut the Devils' lead to 2-1. Other scores right now, you got the Avs kicking the crap out of the Ottawa Senators, 5-0 midway through that game. Toronto's up 3-2 on the Rangers midway through the second. The Washington Capitals have a 3-0 lead on the Flyers. 7 minutes left in the middle frame there. No score yet between Columbus and Florida. 9 minutes left in the second. Montreal on the island, 1-1 there after 1. St. Louis and Vancouver, nobody has scored in that one after 1 period of play. And then midway through the first, Nashville's up 1-0 on Anaheim. Tampa in Dallas leads the Stars 1-0, also 10 minutes into the first there. You've got Chicago hosting LA. Buffalo's at Utah. Vegas gets Boston. And San Jose welcomes in Carolina for the late game. Nancito.
Yeah, that Vancouver St. Louis game, my friend. Whew. Yeah, that's playoffs right there, buddy.
I like
playoffs
that
right there. Because we went through it too. There's so many games with playoff implications tonight. It's awesome, and it's going to be like this right up until the final week there in mid-April, Tom. So looking forward to it. our guy Cass is ready to go as
Yes,
well.
sir. All right, let's get to Game Changers with our game analyst, Matt Kassian. He's ready to rock. Good evening, Cass. Game Changers, as always, brought to you by Damon Bunting Real Estate. He's a consistent top-producing realtor in the greater Edmonton area for over 17 years, community-driven, understands what it takes to make a difference in our city. Check him out, damonbunting.com, or visit his Instagram at Damon Bunting Real Estate. What's going on, Cass? You doing good?
I'm doing good, buddy. I'm doing good. Did the sound work the first time? This time?
Oh, you sound nice and clear, crystal clear. I like it.
Yeah, hopefully we've sorted out those issues. But yeah, I'm good. I'm excited for this one. As you guys have been talking about already, not necessarily playoff implications or massive playoff implications for the Edmonton Oilers, but could be a team you see when it really matters late in the playoffs, and certainly one of the best teams in the league in the Winnipeg Jets. So this one's exciting. Vancouver game's exciting. There's just a lot of moving parts in the Eastern Conference and who could finish in that second wild card spot. So just hey, it's an exciting time right now.
Very exciting time. You know what was exciting today? The alumni skate. And I know you were on the area too, guys.
Can't those Tuesdays and Thursdays. I've had so many of those on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Belsey actually showed up. He took his hockey equipment out of his locker and his stall from Silent Ice Center and actually carried it in. And he played good, but
he didn't make you carry it?
No, I can only handle one bag at a time.
No. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm surprised he doesn't have a wheelie bag. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Big turnout today. Good to see a lot of those guys. When you're out there, it's always great too. But anyway, okay, let's shift the focus back to this game, Cass. Let's get into Game Changers. As always, brought to you by Damon Bunting Real Estate. Number one, Cass, this is important, but also we'll see how the Oilers could handle some potential adversity. Bye-bye, dry. Did I do that right?
Bye-bye, dry. You know, was that NSYNC or Backstreet Boys? That was Backstreet Boys. They were big in Germany, weren't they?
That was NSYNC.
No, that was NSYNC. They were also big in Germany, weren't they?
Of course.
Listen, as you guys say, you've already started talking about it. It's the kind of obvious part of Game Changers, but you can't not talk about it. He hasn't missed very much time the last number of seasons, as you already astutely pointed out, and he's a workhorse. So, you know, it's probably enough that they don't want to risk him injuring himself worse, which kind of tells me it might be a couple of games here that he sits out, you know, because we had this conversation earlier on the Two Guys in a Goalie podcast this afternoon, and we're talking about the potential of this. And my initial thought was like, well, it all kind of depends on what type of injury it is. You know, if it's a thigh contusion, AKA Charlie Horse,
right? Well,
yeah, you're probably just going to give him a night. Maybe he can't push all the way on it. No use pushing through. He's not on the point streak anymore. Like, let him recover and then throw him back in as soon as he's able. But the more I've chewed on it this afternoon and thinking heading into this, I'm like, it's probably not that. It's probably not that, because he, as you said, like, he is the player that really pushes.
Yes.
And pushes through those sorts of things. We have seen him do it time and time again. So I'm more of the thought of this is probably something, maybe hip, maybe groin, but that is small, but has the potential of becoming worse. And they're like, well, let's just not mess around with this and let it rest and recover and do what it has to do. So it could be interesting. This could be the first of a couple of games. I could be completely wrong. It could be something like the thigh contusion where it's just one or two and that's it. But it just could be something that keeps him out maybe a little bit longer than we hope or expect here heading into this. But for the Edmonton Oilers, I mean, Connor's the best player in the world. Leon has been your best player this season by a margin. He has been your best player this season. And that, for any team, is a tall order to have that player out of the lineup. So how is Adam Henrique going to step up? You know, how is the rest of the lineup going to step up for a game where we finally got the Edmonton Oilers against the Utah, I just about said Utah Jazz, the Utah Hockey Club, playing like we want to see the playoff Edmonton Oilers play. Now your best player comes out. So in a game that could have a little bit even higher tempo, it's going to be interesting to see how the team reacts.
The Jazz also same ownership as the Utah Hockey Club, so that is noteworthy. Saw a lot of like the Jazz, the ownership group's logo. It's basically the Jazz logo walking around the rink the last couple of days. And then, yeah, you're right. Now, Scalding Gord had said, hey, load management has arrived here in Edmonton. And Scalding Gourd's not completely wrong if we don't see Draisaitl tonight. We just watched Matthias Ekholm basically have 2 weeks off because he's been a workhorse. He's older than Draisaitl. And I think this is kind of telling to where the Oilers are at in their life cycle and where the stars are. They're not young guys. They're in the prime of their careers. What do you think of this approach where if a guy is maybe a little bit nicked up, the team is willing to say, you know what? We're going to give you a little bit of leeway here and give you some time to rest up. What do you make of that?
Well, why wouldn't you do it? Why wouldn't you do it? Like
I'm okay with it.
I'm totally fine with it. Yeah. I am totally fine with it. And I know it's not always ideal for fans who are buying tickets and going to watch the games and want to see the best players in the world play. Like I get that you can end up frustrated. You know, you want to go and watch Connor McDavid and you want to watch Leon Draisaitl, but the teams do have to think, you know, for if we upset people in that way, we're going to deal with it because we'd much rather have a deeper playoff run and people will be a little more excited about that. Like you're trying to look at it from a playoff standpoint and from a winning a Stanley Cup standpoint. Like you want to tell me you'd be upset if we knew, now we don't, but if we knew they were going to win a Stanley Cup, if they rested guys a couple of days, and that meant you didn't get to watch them play in the regular season for a couple of games, we'd be all fine. We would all be fine. We'd be like, yeah, that's fine. I'll deal with that. So, you know, as you can, try not to get frustrated if it happens. Now, Leon and Connor, they're not really the types that are going to want a lot of that.
True.
And that's where I'm like, this is probably actually something because they've never done it before. And yes, maybe it's a little bit of load management, but that's not in their nature. Like Connor McDavid came back from the Four Nations and wanted to play immediately and not have the extra. Like that's how those guys are wired. So it probably is something. I don't think this is load management, but it's probably just being smart. You need Leon at his best in the playoffs, and you're not in danger of losing or getting knocked out of a playoff position at this point, even though, yes, you're jousting for that final finish. You're not in danger right now of getting knocked out of a wild card spot. So rest him up if he needs it. Let him get healthy. And we want to see a healthy Leon for playoffs.
Also, you can make more revenue in playoffs. So it's better that he's there. I'm just being now I'm being a troll. I'm just by saying
but it's
that.
True.
It is true.
You have to think like it's true.
Yeah, but I guarantee you the business side's not going, well, make sure he's ready for the playoff. Anyway, that's beside the point. Point number 1 was bye-bye dry on Game Changers. Point number 2 with Matt Kassian, deep third. Cass?
Ooh, that third line of the Winnipeg Jets. I love me that third line of the Winnipeg Jets. Maybe the best or one of the best third lines in the league with Nino Niederreiter on the left, Adam Lowry in the middle, and Mason Appleton on the right. And I don't know if you looked, Tom. I don't know if anyone has looked. Well, people definitely have. But if you looked from a size standpoint, not only is that a line that does have the ability for their players to put the puck in the net. Lowry, 14 goals, 29 points. Niederreiter, 14 goals, 30 points. And Appleton, I can't remember how many points. Where's Appleton? I forgot how many points he has.
I have it right here.
Appleton, 8 goals, 11 assists for 19 points. So between the three of them, they're putting up a pretty hefty amount of goals. And Mason Appleton, 6'2".
Yeah.
Niederreiter, 6'2". Adam Lowry, 6'5". Like big boys, and they play like big boys, Tom. This is a line that's aggressive, that isn't afraid to get after you a little bit, and not recklessly. You know, it's not like this is a heads up line where everyone's just yelling heads up the whole time they're on the ice, like when people are just doing stupid stuff. But they're just aggressive. They play aggressive defensively, and for the Edmonton Oilers, especially with Leon out of the lineup. I mean, the reason I wanted to focus on this third line is there is a lot of depth for the Winnipeg Jets, and with Leon being out, well, all of a sudden your depth gets moved up. Your depth gets moved up, and those players that are now your third line. So if it does end up being, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins in that line, whoever it ends up being, if it ends up being more the Henrique, Podkolzin, and Arvidsson on the third line, whatever iteration, because again, we know it's probably going to change in 10 seconds. Whatever iteration we're going to see, that third line is going to have an incredibly important task. incredibly important because this isn't a team, the Winnipeg Jets, that you can just kind of float through their depth. They can kind of just be like, oh yeah, we're probably going to be fine. Most likely going to be fine. Like this is a Winnipeg team that comes at you from line 1 to line 4, and that third line in particular. Like again, like to me, it's just modern NHL, like how you want to build a third line. Like has skill, has speed, is aggressive, is big and strong. Like to me, it's like you have that in that line. It's just a great line. And the Edmonton Oilers, I think, it's a line that could give you fits because that's the line that could be going up against, the bottom of your defensive pairings as well. Not just your forwards, but, and we know and trust Kulak, but Emberson in particular, if that's the group that gets those guys, you're going to have to deal with a lot of pressure. You're going to have to deal with a lot of pressure. Even if it's Evan Bouchard, you're going to have to deal with a lot of pressure. And yes, they played a fantastic game against Utah, but this team, the Edmonton Oilers, has struggled under pressure. They're defensemen. So it's just, It's going to be a challenge for the Edmonton Oilers and a fun one, I think, to watch to see how it pans out. But man, that third line, again, like I love that third line for the Winnipeg Jets. It's a great line, a ton of fun to watch. And they're going to give the Edmonton Oilers everything they can handle tonight. So want to see how Edmonton responds to that aggressiveness and the tenacity that line brings.
This text comes in from Corey. I laugh because I remember this show. I don't know if you do too, Cass. I know that Hernan probably does. Corey says that Winnipeg Jets third line is the perfect strangers line. Larry Appleton. Remember Balky and Larry?
No.
Oh, man. It was a neat little show, and it actually was the start of Family Matters because I think Harriet and Carl had a cameo in Perfect Strangers, and then they created Family Matters, just a weird tidbit of old TV sitcom history. So I do remember Perfect Strangers with Balky and Larry. Well played, Corey. Good text. I appreciate that very much. All right. It is Game Changers with our game analyst, Matt Kassian. Game Changers is always brought to you by Damon Bunting Real Estate. Keep those texts coming in. 780-218-9999. Get into the nasty chat as well as we roll along. By the way, Leon Draisaitl officially out for tonight. The team is on the ice for warm-up. He is not out there. So Draisaitl definitely bye-bye Dry, as Cass put in point number 1 of Game Changers.
Hey,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Hernan.
So just to update what you're saying, Tom, there, Max Jones draws in ahead of Derek Ryan.
Yes. No surprise there, really, Cass, right? Because how do you look at the Derek Ryan situation? Chris Knobloch said he'd play him some games, but...
Yep. Well, you're going to want to play a guy that is a veteran guy that has played in the playoffs and has playoff experience. It's been around. That's generally, it's not like he's groundbreaking, but he's dependable generally when he's out there. And I think the thought is to keep him up to NHL speed so that if you do need to use him in the playoffs, he's not brand new, fresh into it. Right? That's the thought behind it. And against the Winnipeg Jets, I think for Derek Ryan, you're probably looking at this and going, they are a bigger, heavier team that plays a bigger, heavier up-tempo game. Having a guy like Jones might be beneficial a little bit over top of having a Ryan in there.
All right. Well said, Cass. Well said indeed. Let's go to point number 3 of Game Changers. Create time and space.
Yeah, and this is going to be, I think, a two-part situation. The first is going to be for the Edmonton Oilers defensemen is they have to work tonight to create their own time and space going back to get pucks. Like when they're shagging pucks out of the corners, when when there's a chip out to the neutral zone, when you're working back to get the puck, you have to be hustling here today because Winnipeg is going to pressure you and they're going to pressure you aggressively. And if you want to have any kind of time and space and have any kind of chance to make clean passes up, to transition well and to be aggressive in that transition, those defensemen for the Edmonton Oilers actually moving your feet well, attacking aggressively to your defensive zone to get pucks to make sure that you have some of that time and space. Ultra important. That's point number 1. Point number 2, creating time and space in the offensive zone. Now for the forwards. Now Winnipeg, they're not at the level, I said this earlier on the podcast, but they're not at the level of like when we watched the U.S.-Canada game with the Four Nations in terms of how fast they close defensively. That was on another level. It was ridiculous how fast time and space disappeared in the offensive zone. But Winnipeg kind of does it at the same time. Like they are one of those teams, and it shows up with their total goals against and the amount of high danger chances against they give up, in that they absolutely try to push you hard to the outside of the ice in the defensive zone. Like, they are aggressive at keeping you out there, and their defensemen do a pretty good job of clearing the front of the net when you do get there. Like, it's not easy to get any kind of time and space in the offensive zone. And for the Edmonton Oilers forwards, I think the challenge isn't just to try to create that, because you create it by movement, right? You create it by movement, moving low to high, side to side, executing cleanly. That's how you create space. But the bigger thing is when you don't have that time and space, not forcing plays. Like, don't try to create that time and space out of nothing. You know, if nothing's there, take nothing. You know, if nothing's there, don't just try to create. You know, McDavid, sure, let him do his thing. He can do whatever. But for pretty much everybody else, when you have the puck in the offensive zone, don't just throw it away trying to say, okay, there might be something here. Make definitive plays strong to the net, and then you have to fight to get there. And that's, you know, it's a difficult thing to do. It can be a painful thing to do. It can be a tiring thing to do. But to win against the Winnipeg Jets, it's what you have to do.
Cass, I would like you to chime in on the question of the night that the Latino Heat threw out there, because we do know now that Leon Draisaitl is confirmed out for tonight. I do have lines. I will get to them shortly. But before we do, Nanso, fire away the question of the night for our listeners and viewers, and then for Cass as well, because I'm curious to hear what he has to say about this.
Yeah, Cass, with Draisaitl out tonight, who would you want to see take that spot on the power play? I know we got some options earlier, Skinner, Arvidsson, maybe go with two defensemen and try Wallman and Bush, or other. What say you, Cass?
Ooh, that's a tricky one.
Right?
It's a tricky one, because Arvidsson shooting on the right and Skinner. I might go Skinner if I'm thinking about it. I think Skinner, natural goal scorer, maybe the guy that I slide in there. Yeah, as I just kind of think out loud. Yeah, I would try Skinner first, see how that looks.
That was my train of thought too. I'm like, Skinner. And then I was like, well, what about Wallman and having another defenseman out there? What would you say about Wallman, and what tantalizes you about Wallman, if there is anything, and his potential being that, I suppose, half wall type of guy? I don't know how to describe.
I don't think Wallman can slide. You don't want your defenseman sliding in that low. Like, if you had to have a right shot defenseman slide into where Nuge normally does, I'd go okay. I get that. And that could be a potential. Or one of the looks you could do is Wallman takes Nugent Hopkins' spot and Nuge slides over there. Like, if that probably would be a more, if you're wanting Wallman and wanting to go with 2D, that's probably the set you're going with. Okay. Is you slide Wallman over to where Nuge goes. Nuge goes where Draisaitl goes on that side, because he's still on his one-timer side then. Mm-hmm. That left shot over there, that's probably what you do if you wanted to go with an extra defenseman. I think, you're not going to have a D-man on the half wall down low there. You're not. They're not going to be comfortable. Wallman's not going to be comfortable there.
Yeah, too much puck touches for him on the half wall is not ideal. I agree. Cass, you know what's ideal? You on the pre and post game show. Fantastic, triumphant return as always. We'll catch up with you on the post game.
Sounds good, buddy. Talk soon.
That's Matt Kassian, our game analyst, brought to you as always by Game Changers, brought to you as always by Damon Bunting. I'm trying to do a million things at once here, Hernan. A million things at once.
No, it's all good, man.
Game Changers brought to you by Damon Bunting.
I was just going to say on the power play, that's why I should have told Cass this too, because initially that's what I said, where not specifically where Draisaitl is, because when McDavid was out and they went with the two defensemen, it was a totally different look, right? They didn't have the two guys on the half wall. They had the two guys on the point, which didn't work because they never do it, right? And that's kind of the old school way of doing things. Like, no one really does that two defensemen on the blue line, Tom. True. Like, you don't see it a lot. You see it from certain teams, but that's why it's kind of, if you want someone to be on that half wall, then obviously it wouldn't be a defenseman, but we'll see what they do. Maybe we see three different looks, Tom. Maybe they try Skinner once. Maybe they try Arvidsson once. Who knows?
Let them try it. We'll see what the Oilers do with that power play. We know what they're going to do with their lines. I'm going to get to that right away here. I'll remind folks the question of the night. Who would you put on the power play to replace Leon Draisaitl? Text us 780-218-9999. Of course, you can also get into the nasty chat via YouTube. Gazzola and Salas with you here on the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show. Oilers and Jets, second of 3 meetings this season. Let's roll into starting lineups. Brought to you by South Fort Chev. We're officially in truck month, which comes with deeper discounts and lower interest rates on Silverados and HDs, 0% for up to 72 months on Silverado Custom and Custom Trail Boss. The Silverado is built in Canada. A 90-day payment deferral or $10K cash back with the purchase of a new vehicle. Conditions do apply on that. See dealer for details at www.southfortchev.com. Drive a little, save a lot at South Fort Chev. For the Oilers tonight, we have lines. It will be McDavid between Skinner and Hyman, and Nugent-Hopkins between Podkolzin and Arvidsson. Adam Henrique at center between Max Jones, who returns to the lineup, and Kasperi Kapanen. Then you've got Matthias Janmark with Corey Perry on the left, Connor Brown on the right. On defense for the Oil, no changes here. Ekholm with Bouchard, Nurse with Wallman, Kulak with Stetcher. Are you a little bit surprised, Nanso, that Emberson isn't back?
Yeah. I mean, I think Knobloch alluded to, like, there's good competition between those three guys, but I'll be honest. I think Emberson gives me more confidence. I think he's steadier back there. I think he's better with the puck on his stick. I still find Stetcher, he's kind of he's kind of all over the place sometimes, especially when they get caught running around. He's kind of, I mean, for my preference, Tom, my sixth defenseman's Ty Emberson. Now, I know for many it might be Stetcher, for others it might be Klingberg, but for me, I am a little surprised. And this is nothing against Stetcher. I think he's been fine, but
it must be a veteran thing. I mean, he's got the veteran savvy. He's kind of been with a bunch of teams in the playoffs before. He's dealt with stretch drives, and I mean, I suppose they gave him his shot, and they like what they saw, so they're sticking with it, and that's okay if it works. Sure, but I'm with you. I was liking what Emberson was building. I like how his game has started to develop more. He's playing his first full NHL season. For the most part, he's reliable. Has he had blips on the radar? Of course. Yeah, but, and that's going to happen.
Didn't Knob say too, Tommy, that he goes, well, we got our 5 guys that are going to be in the playoffs set, and we all know who they are.
Yeah.
And then it's down to those 3. So I think all 3 guys are going to get into games here, Tom. I think we're even going to see a good handful of games for John Klingberg. But yeah, I mean, that's another good question. Damn it. Why didn't I use that one, though?
Save it for Saturday.
Okay, don't answer anyone. Save it. Pretend you didn't hear anything. Earmuffs.
Earmuffs, everyone. All right. Let's go to the Jets side of things when it comes to starting lineups for Winnipeg. Mark Scheifele between Kyle Connor and Gabe Vilardi. Vladislav Nemesnikov. I know they were looking to improve their second line center, but Nemesnikov has been a pretty good stopgap. He's got Nikolai Ehlers and Cole Perfetti on his line. Adam Lowry and Nino Niederreiter and Mason Appleton, that really good third line that Cass was talking about. Morgan Barron between Brandon Tanev and Alex Iafallo on the fourth line for the Jets. And then on defense, Josh Morrissey with Dylan DeMello, Dylan Sandberg with Luke Shen, Hayden Fleury paired up with Colin Miller. Your starting goalie, Stu Skinner for the Oil. He has a 4-1-1 record versus Winnipeg in his career. 267 goals against average, 908 save percentage in those 7 games he's faced the Jets. And then Hellebuck, the Hart Trophy finalist. The 31-year-old is 14-13-3 versus the Oil lifetime in 30 games versus Edmonton. 3.04 goals against average, 907 save percentage, 3 shutouts, including the one earlier this season on opening night. Hellebuck, 6 shutouts on the year in the 53 games he has played. That takes us to the Advantage Sports Medicine and Physiotherapy Injury Report. At Advantage Sports Medicine and Physiotherapy, we treat you like the pros. Our multidisciplinary team includes sports medicine physicians, along with highly skilled physiotherapists, strength and conditioning coaches, and massage therapists. If you have a nagging pain you'd like to see go away, book your consultation today at www.advantagesportsmed.ca. For the Oilers, Leon Draisaitl out. Day-to-day, undisclosed, probably lower body. John Klingberg, day-to-day, undisclosed, probably lower body. Trent Frederick, IR, ankle. Alec Regula, IR, knee. Evander Kane, LTIR, abdominal surgery, and knee surgery. Evander Kane, for the first time this season, taking morning skate with the Oilers today. So he was skating. He was on the ice. Most people were fixated on the Prime Minister being on the ice with the team. And then Daniel Nugent-Bowman made a comment about Kane, and I was like, oh, wait, there he is. And sure enough, he took part in the morning skate. How did he look? I don't know. I took a quick video of him, and then they had us like shuttle down to the locker room, and it all ended very quickly. It was sensory overload at the arena today, Hernan. Oh. That's how I would describe it, with everything that was going on and like the added security, the German shepherds and police dogs. It was just like, okay, now where are we going? Can we go here? Do we go to our usual spot? What's happening? It was bizarre, but that's what happens when a head of state is in town. Really quickly for the Jets, their injuries: Neil Pionk, day-to-day lower body; Rasmus Kapari, listed as day-to-day concussion. So there you go for the Jets. No Pionk, no Kapari. Nancito, we got a few minutes left. What say you?
Yeah, what was I going to get to here? Cass brought up that third line for Winnipeg, and talking to Drew Mindell from the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, said they've been struggling lately. Like they've been really good all year, but as of late they've been they've had their issues. Yes, Nino Niederreiter is not playing really good right now. He's struggling. He's fighting it a bit, so that's going to be a good test. And Max Jones over Derek Ryan. I mean, we're different players, Tom, but both fourth line guys, right? Like we're not. Yeah, I don't think anyone should be surprised whether it was Ryan or Max Jones, but maybe they're putting Max Jones because of the physicality. That's a big third line. They're a big bottom six, so that's probably why he gets the call ahead of Derek Ryan.
That's exactly the answer I would have given you. That would be my thought as to what's going on. I'm just looking at Nino Niederreiter's numbers here in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 games, 1 assist.
Yeah, so he's definitely struggling.
I would say so. And then let's go to
I know Lowry missed some time too.
Appleton has not picked up a point in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He had an assist March 6th, and that was his only point in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So a point in 10 games. And then let's take a look at Adam Lowry, the team's captain. He was missing time. Like you said, he missed games between January 22nd and February 7th. He is pointless in his last 4. Prior to that, though, Hernan, he had a 3-game goal streak. And then prior to that 3-game goal streak, he went 6 games without a point after returning from injury. So, he's the best one out of the 3 point-wise. But, they've had some issues for sure. All right, you want to rattle off a couple texts before we wind things down?
Yeah, let's get to some in here. Let's see here. No draw. Did you read Coach Mike yet? No draw, no problem. 4-game heater, LFG. I think you all know what that means. Of course I do. Don't be ridiculous. Perfect Strangers, Laughing Out Loud from Wayne. That's a good reference, Tom. I'm old enough to remember that show. So, You know what's funny though? Because the other day we did some trivia on the show and we said name the top, like the 3 oldest guys here at EST. A lot of people had Cass on their list, and I'm like, a lot of people don't realize he's one of the youngest guys here outside of the 30, young crew.
Yeah, he's like 35, 36.
Yeah. I don't even think he's that old yet. Like he's still pretty young, which made me laugh because I was like, why do people think he's that much? He's the 3rd oldest or whatever. But
he's 38 actually. Cass is wow. He's a year younger than me.
Yeah, he's still one of the younger guys here.
Yes, thank you. He is. I appreciate that.
Hey, I'm the 3rd oldest, man. So, man, life goes by fast.
It does. Enjoy it. Embrace it. The Scalding Gourd says, Pionk, sound that a donkey makes. Yes, I know that. Box the Boilermaker says, so the Oilers need the distraction of the PM on the ice. Brutal, friends with GM. Yeah, I don't know the connection outside of he grew up here in Edmonton. And it's interesting. A lot of people on the broadcast crew on the truck and stuff, played hockey with him, I believe for CAC. So that's I don't know. I don't follow Canadian politics or politics that much for that matter. So I don't really have anything to tell you. The Prime Minister was on the ice. That's pretty cool.
That's all we're doing is reporting that he was there, and that's it.
Yeah. The playbook says, evening, gentlemen. What say you about this setup? Hyman bumper, Perry net front, Bouchard and Nuge in their spots. McDavid does his wheel and deal. The playbook, draw it up, buddy, because that's actually a pretty good setup. I like it.
Yeah, I don't know about Himes. I'm going with nicknames now.
In bumper?
In the bumper.
Or was that Perry? I don't mind like trying stuff at this time of year and using different wrinkles. I'm kind of open to it, especially when you have a good handle on where your team's going to be at the end of the season. I'm okay with that. Okay. If it doesn't work, stop it. Just get it out of there. Be like, oh, that was not worth it. I don't mind that. Troll, who are the oldest guys at EST? I missed that segment. Do you want to let them know?
Jeez. So Joaquin, my good buddy. Well, our good buddy.
Yes.
Reed Wilkins, number 2, and I'm number 3.
And then Dusty, I think.
Dusty and Jay Millen are very similar.
Yeah, very close in age.
I think Dusty and Jay are a year apart. Like I'm a year apart from those two guys. Then Eric.
Yeah, Eric and I are close in age. Belzy's older than me, maybe even Eric. Yeah, then Cass. And then the young guys.
Then the youngins.
Mm-hmm. The bebes, as we like to call them.
The bebes.
All right. I'll just wrap this up with the PM stuff. Bronx of Boilermakers says there was an article that said he went to college with the GM. And then Ryan from SAS says, isn't the PM related to Pete Shirley? I'm sure I heard Stoff say something. They played at Harvard together. So he was a goalie for Harvard. That I heard about. All right, that's going to do it for the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show. Oilers and Jets, no Leon Draisaitl. How will they do? We'll see. McDavid, does he kick on those afterburners? We could see it. Big thank you to Mitch Clinton, radio color analyst for the Winnipeg Jets, for hopping on. And a big thank you to everybody who watched, and a big thank you to everybody who listened. For Nancito and Gas, I am Tom saying see you after the game.